2nd, 2023 at 6:33 p.m. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda approved. Team building activity, line drawing, Dr. Jameson.
So I'm excited. My team knows I like the team building activities, but I also believe of the power and the ability for us to make connections to things that we actually do on a day-to-day basis. But it also ties back into part of the MSIP 6 standards for the board under leadership. And I will start the activity now. Let's see. No peeking. All right, so our team building activity for today is drawing twins, and we have a couple of outcomes related to this particular activity. One is to develop relationships to support shared decision-making under governance. The second is to gain a better understanding of our individual and collective communication styles. And the last is to understand the varying communication styles of each of our board members. All right. So on your piece of paper, I know you guys kind of saw sneak peek. The first thing you're going to do is draw several circles, small circles in the center of the paper. So you will need to draw a total of 6 circles in the center of your paper. And the middle circle will have 2 circles that are east of the middle circle, and then 2 circles that are west of the middle circle, and they all should be the same size. All right, so next you're actually going to draw a square on the west side of the circle that you drew.
Which circle? We drew a bunch.
I can't answer the question for you. Gotta draw. I know that's part of the activity. I know. So you will draw a square on the circle on the east side of your circle.
East or west?
West, thank you, west. All right, from the center circle of the 6 that are on your picture, you're going to draw a diagonal oval that goes northeast towards the corner of your paper. So it's going to be an oval that goes northeast to the corner of your paper. And then you're going to draw a second circle that goes northwest towards the corner of your paper.
A circle or an oval?
Thank you, an oval.
I just want to be clear that I was lost with the first direction.
Me too.
I have so many questions that I'm now just winging it.
That's perfect. It's perfect. It goes along with everything that we're doing. And then you're going to draw at the southwest circle, from the middle circle of your picture, you're going to draw an oval that goes southwest, going from the middle circle that you drew.
Can you repeat that last step, please?
You're going to draw another oval that extends from the middle circle of the 6 that you drew that will go southwest towards the corner of your paper. And then the last oval you're going to draw is going to be southeast, coming from the middle circle, from the line of circles towards the end of your paper. Now, on the box that you drew, you're going to draw a, oh, this one's hard, a curved line with a circle on the end. And that one's going to be facing southwest. And then north on that same box, you're going to draw a line that goes northeast with a circle on the end.
Northeast.
Yes.
Oh, that just looks weird.
There's madness in this, I assure you.
I might have jumped the gun and went northwest on that one and then had to change it.
All right, so I am going to show the picture, which I gave a sneak peek.
Even with the sneak peek, I didn't get it.
Not even close.
All right, so I am going to stop sharing and then I'll go back to the slide. So this is what it's supposed to look like, but I actually inverted it since I had actually had a sneak peek. So if you can hold your illustration up to.
Well, you're kind of hateful.
Oh, so that one's not bad.
Yeah, I'm not doing
Oh my
that.
God, Rachel, oh.
Get a good angle on it.
I have questions.
Oh, mine's upside down.
Even with my sneak peek, I needed questions.
So that's interesting. You said that. So as you kind of went through the activity, and I'll make a connection. So what did you need as a board member?
More detail.
Yeah, I was going to say more literally, I needed more detail. Were my initial 6 circles, I had more questions. And then the 4 by the side, were they part of the 6? Were they separate from the 6? I needed an opportunity to discuss and tease out where my brain likes to go to 9 million different options.
What else? What other things were useful or not?
I'm visual, so I needed to see something. But then when you were talking about the middle circle, because it was only 6, there is no middle circle to me. So that was a hurdle that I could not overcome.
Same here, Brandy. I had the same thing. I went, no, that doesn't work.
So
I have to say, I was thinking about my kids, and I have a kid who's dyslexic, and north, south, east, west, the left, right, those sorts of, I was like, oh, that would kill her.
So the descriptions and the directions didn't necessarily meet your needs and made it difficult to complete the task.
Well, my box is on the side.
Mine is too.
So
Mine too. I needed things repeated. I needed to hear it multiple times.
I should have asked clarifying questions.
So what's interesting
Mine was at the top, but that's because I cheated. I knew it was supposed to be at the top. So that's the only one I got right because I remembered from the picture.
So what's interesting is that even though the directions weren't clear and I gave everybody the same directions, all of the illustrations are actually, different. And so it really ties into a couple things. And I was doing research more or less around how we communicate with each other, and then how we communicate collectively impact how a message is received. And so as I was doing my research, I found this article that was written by Grace Lau, and it's through Hypercontext. And she basically identified 4 different types of communication styles, particularly what you find in the workplace. So it's analytical, functional, intuitive, and personal. And so I'll give you a second to look over those descriptions, and if you can just kind of unmute and share which one you are as you think about the ones that are listed here.
I'm most definitely functional. Everything got to be in order. I need clarity, step by step. I'm most definitely functional.
I agree with Linda. My first thing was, I like the other ones, but I need functional to then do the rest.
Yep.
I would agree with that for myself.
Three functional communicators.
I would say that I'm kind of a cross between analytical and intuitive. Like I knew mine was probably wrong. Like I drew a 7th circle so that I would have a middle circle, and I was okay with that. I was like, that's the point, right? So I would say that, but I do like to have the hard, okay, how many, what is this? I like to have those hard facts too.
I'm having trouble picking between analytical and personal. Because I do like to have the data to, like, what are the facts? Let's respond to the facts. But I'm also a middle child and a people pleaser. So I'm always really highly aware of other people's needs and behavior.
So what was interesting about this particular article, it basically says that a person is never one of these. And so you can go in and out many of these. And as I was reading the article, interestingly enough, I was also thinking about the members of my team and where they fit collectively in this as well. So as always, I have a couple of debriefing questions. We saw that our pictures didn't look like the rest, and just again, were there frustrations, and what did you need specifically to better execute the task? But I think the bigger question for me is, as we think about the work as a group of 8 when we get our other board members, but right now with the group that we have, what connections do you see between this activity and your role as a board members in the varying ways that you communicate with the public?
I think it comes back to I communicate in a certain way, and I need to be aware, and I believe cognizant of the fact that others don't speak the same way I speak in many different forms. And so to be truly clear and to connect well, you have to be able to see all of those different avenues. So for me, not just the functional, I need to be able to see what those analytical and personal and intuitive are, because that might be where students, teachers, staff, community are coming from, to be able to hear them and to be able to respond in a way that meets their needs.
I agree with Rachel. I would say that I communicate in a very analytical way. And I would also say that I feel like we receive a lot of communication through a personal category. And so I'm like, data says this. And a lot of times it's, but I feel this, and there's no wrong or right. It's just differences in how we communicate. And I find that to be difficult at times, because I'm like, oh, I've answered the question. I gave you the data. I'm on to the next issue, but that doesn't always answer the question, especially if it's coming from a personal standpoint. So I think it would be important to learn how to communicate in all of those different avenues, so that everyone feels understood and heard, because that is important. Our community is extremely important to us. Our teachers, sorry, I still call them kiddos because that's what they are to me, but that's why we do this work. But you want to make sure that they're heard and understood. And I think that it's important to learn different ways to communicate to make that happen.
Other thoughts before I wrap up?
I think in terms of how we communicate with each other, and particularly when we're in a meeting space like this, it's always good that we're bringing these different communication styles together when we're discussing and analyzing a challenge or an issue, or even just a conversation item. I'm always surprised by perspectives of my fellow board members, not like, oh, I can't believe that they think that, but like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And that's what I find so valuable about having different types of communicators and thinkers in the same space, is the way that we can arrive at a decision, hearing a lot of different perspectives on the issue. And we also communicate that outward, and it does influence the way that we communicate with our community, but it also really influences the way that we make decisions.
Just jotting down notes. Well, I appreciate you engaging in the activity with me. I do enjoy doing these, because while the connection is not always clear, it does help me to continue to be mindful of how I communicate, because I too am also very analytical. But when I was looking back, I said, oh, there's a personal component to that as well. And so how do I ensure that I'm moving throughout, and as I do have conversations or disseminate information, making sure that I am doing it in a way where I am reaching all of those different types of communication styles, so that people are getting what they need from the information that's shared with our community. So whether that be teachers or information shared with families, and even information that's shared with students. So that is all I have, and thank you for participating with me.
Thank you for that exercise, and all the exercises that you bring to us that really help us think about other ways that our board members in our community are looking at things, so that we can become more efficient. I appreciate that work. Okay, strategic planning, mission and vision. Dr. McGee.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to bring some exciting information to you tonight. We're going to be working together with Laura from Insight Education. Now, she is in the middle of Dallas, and there is some considerable weather in her area. So Dr. Jameson and I are standing at the ready to jump in and support whenever things get choppy, and if internet or power goes off in her part of the world. So I'll hand it over to Aurora, and we are excited to further our conversation for our strategic plan.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. So today, the purpose of what we're going to do in today's meeting is I'm going to provide an update on the strategic planning process and where we are. And then we're going to work to refine the draft core beliefs, vision, and mission for the district using the feedback we redrafted based on the things you told us last time, and just got feedback from in focus groups to the refined visions and mission. So we're going to bring those back to you, share what this focus group said, and work on making some final revisions. So in terms of the process, we have been doing focus groups, and we're in the process of working on the goals and priorities, but lately we've been doing focus groups to work on the portrait of a graduate, And then we've also just gotten the feedback on the core values, vision, and mission. And the cabinet and leadership team from the district they work today on priorities and goals. So we're working on drafts of those things. And things are moving along. We've got steering committee meeting number 5 next week, where we'll look at those drafts. So I did want to share with you about focus groups, which are happening right now. We will be running 12 focus groups between March 1st and March 6th. At these focus groups, we gathered input on the core values, vision, and mission, and what should go in the portrait of a graduate. And so far, I've conducted focus groups with middle school students, support staff, done 3 groups of teachers, parents and caregivers, and school administrators have been involved kind of at several places on the development and giving feedback. So they haven't had a specific group, but they have been actively involved several times. The upcoming groups that I have tomorrow and Monday include alternative education students, high school students, more groups of teachers, and 2 more groups for parents and caregivers. So I want to start with the core values. Just as you recall, yes.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get off of mute there. I'd also like to add, we were also very intentional in inviting community members and local political and city employees. So there are some of people participating in our focus groups that do not necessarily have children that go to MRH. And we were intentional about inviting not only our private school partners on this journey, but as well as our community members at large.
Great, thank you. So in the slide deck, I've hidden a lot of the slides that we've looked at before, but they are in the deck if you need to go back and see anything we had before. But just a real quick reminder, core values direct the behavior and decision-making of an organization's employees. Last time we looked at the feedback from the steering committee. These were some of the words that felt really important to them when they brainstormed their ideas. And we had reviewed the feedback that they gave us about the ones that you all drafted from before: courage, inspiration, success, belonging, and integrity. So the feedback they shared, just a quick reminder, they really liked courage, belonging. They liked showing that equity is going to be woven into the other ones. They liked integrity, belonging, diversity. They liked actually most of them. In terms of things for strengthening, they did say we want to make sure there are definitions. So we worked on some definitions to bring you today. They said we should show how and where we need courage. And also just threw a couple words in that we might want to consider, like joy, wellness, excellence, student first. Consider moving individuality into belonging. So a lot of good feedback. We discussed that last time. And you all said you thought with the definitions, we could probably address a lot of the things that they shared feedback on. So I'm going to share the definitions here, and then I'm going to tell you what the steering committee said about each one. So for courage, we have a collective responsibility to take bold and confident action in the face of adversity and uncertainty by uncovering, recognizing, and dismantling systems of oppression. For inspiration, we wrote, we create an inclusive environment and engaging learning experience that excites and empowers our community to discover, problem solve, innovate, and grow to become well-rounded lifelong learners and leaders. For success, we challenge our community to set ambitious goals to maximize personal and collective potential in order to learn, grow, and thrive in the future. For belonging, we intentionally develop relationships to create a culture of safety, trust, and foster vulnerability so that every student, family, and staff member feels valued and connected. And for integrity, we are honest and accountable. We follow through on what we say. We act with transparency, and we do this so that we treat others with care and dignity. So I'm going to go one by one and just share overall what the comments that people made about each of the core values, and then we'll talk about what changes we want to make. So for courage, this is what we heard in the focus groups. There was one parent who was a little troubled by the term because she said some people might not have the ability to be courageous, and she doesn't want them to feel they're not valued if they can't embody that. One person said the definition seems to only focus on systems of oppression, and they said we might want to think about courage on other issues as well. A lot of people said they felt inspired by the definition, but some didn't love the term courage as a core value. We heard that a few times. Somebody said not everyone will know what collective responsibility and dismantling systems of oppression might mean. So they're a little bit, they said we might want to make the language simpler. And someone else said they really liked that we had systems of oppression included in the definition. For inspiration, we heard the description really resonated with them, but some teachers said the word should possibly be changed to innovation instead of inspiration. Several people did mention they don't like this word as much as the others, but the students really liked this word. They said it really spoke to them. And a lot of teachers actually also said it really resonated. So people are a little bit mixed on that, but it does resonate for a lot of people, including students. For success, one staff member said they weren't sure about success because it meant a lot of different things to different people, but they liked how we defined it. So they said that actually made them feel better about the definition now that they saw how what we were thinking. And one group said maybe we should think about connecting this to the broader St. Louis community, and what, being like a successful option in the broader community. Other than that, people like this, and we didn't hear very much other feedback about it. For belonging, we just heard a lot of people say they really like this one. Teachers, this really resonated. Every teacher group, the people are like, this one is really good and really important. And just one person said we might want to take out foster vulnerability and possibly replace it with openness. Other than that, I didn't get any other comments on this one. And with integrity, somebody said for the transparency part, districts can't always be transparent because sometimes there might be HR issues or discipline involving someone that the district can't speak about. So they said perhaps change it to own up to our mistakes since we can't be transparent 100% of the time. One person said honest and accountable seem a little bit redundant. Someone said take out, or a couple of people said, take out treat others with care and dignity, and we might want to replace it with build trust with the community. Somebody said it just sounds a little bit choppy because all the sentences start with we, but overall, a lot of people said this one was one of their highest ones in terms of things they thought was really important. So people liked it a lot. They just wanted us to tweak the definition. So overall feedback on the core values across the 7 focus groups I've run so far is that people feel really positive, and for the most part, they think these are the right core values for the district. There are some that inspired them a little bit more than others, but nobody had a problem with any of them. They just said certain ones really jumped out at them, and then some tweaking I think could help on some of the others. And so just minor revisions to the language were suggested. So with that, I want to talk about what revisions we might consider for the core values based on the feedback we just heard and the things that we had heard from the steering committee. And I can go back to the main definition here. There we go.
I'm interested that there was a comment that inspiration should be changed to innovation, because that was something we were grappling with, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I actually was thinking maybe we just add innovation as well. Keep both terms if we can.
It's interesting because, they sort of are different. And so I like, for me, inspiration includes more people, innovation excludes. So I like your idea, Brandy, of what if you called it both? Inspiration and innovation, though we also innovate within the definition, so I don't know.
Well, it seemed like the teachers responded a little more to innovation, but the students, if I have that right,
Yep,
responded more to inspiration. So that's why I was thinking, yeah, if we keep them both, then we are inspiring the students and innovating the teachers, I guess. So I also liked openness under
Belonging.
place vulnerability under belonging.
I agree. Vulnerability is a little scary, I think. And in today's world, I'm not sure we want, I like openness. There's some protection within openness that vulnerability doesn't have.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And then back to the inspiration, and I mean, we use the word innovate within the inspiration piece. And to me, it kind of flows nicely. I mean, I'm out the door in a month, so you don't have to listen to me, but I think 5 is enough, and adding another one would be too much. And I think, or doing inspiration and innovation together kind of is in my mind, it's 2 different things. So I kind of like it the way it is. And then if we can go back to courage as well, I just want to acknowledge the words of dismantling systems of oppression is something we should probably be very mindful of. It might not resonate with all members, and courage takes on a different definition for everybody. So let's just be mindful of that as well.
True. I see that innovate is under inspiration, and it does kind of seem redundant to then try to add it elsewhere in the title or whatever. So I kind of agree with Maria on that.
I was shying away from courage, Maria, because that was the one I was still grappling with. That was some very interesting feedback that I don't know what it made me think of, what if we have this for 15 years? Does this language, will it age the way we think it's going to age? Are there more direct words for collective responsibility and dismantling of systems of oppression that say it in a way that will age with us?
So I kind of get what you're saying, Rachel, and I don't disagree with you, but I think from my perspective, I really like what we put there, because I think that dismantle, even though it's strong language, to me, it's the same thing that's been happening for 60 years, 100 years, like it's the same. And we do have to have the courage to dismantle those systems, and they are systems. And I think it's easy, not for us, but in general, for people to forget that these systems exist, or they think that, well, we don't have that system, but in fact, we find that it's embedded in everything, And so for me, that really, I guess, matters or stands out to me. But I do agree with you that, over time, we're looking at how does this evolve? But I feel like sometimes it's scary to address painful things, right? But they're necessary, I guess. And I'm scared that if we water it down, it won't mean anything anymore, because we're saying,
point, Brandy.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Sorry to interrupt. It's a good point.
Oh, no,
I think that I actually like the dismantling systems of oppression piece, but I'm wondering if we can add to this, because if we're thinking about students, not every, the example of courage means something different to every student, and it could be, it is so individualized that I'm wondering if we can make a little bolder statement here about that, and also include, of course, that we are recognizing and dismantling systems of oppression, if that makes any sense. Because it has to be a universal piece too. And I'm just thinking from the student perspective here.
Right.
And I think I need some clarity. I absolutely agree with you, Brandy. I like, and Maria, the wording. I am thinking functionally of collective responsibility is a term that we use right now. And will that still mean what we think it means? And dismantling systems of oppression, we know exactly what that means. Will it remain?
Is it?
Sadly, oppression's always going to be there. I would like to say we're going to completely dismantle it. It's going to be done. And I know what that means in this moment. Is there something more clear about those particular words? And I'm getting in the weeds of the words, not in the thoughts. I agree with the thoughts, it's more the language.
So what I'm hearing you say, Rachel, is you're looking for something that has sustainability with time. And
These
may
feel
not,
a little
for example,
buzz-
like innovation from what we said 3 to 4 years ago means something very different now than what it did 3, 4. So you want this to have some ability to grow and breathe with time and not be outdated within a year or two.
Right. I don't want the words to limit us.
Indeed. It's a very good point.
I think it's important that the phrase really encapsulate the commitments that we've made as a district to do this work, to dismantle systems of oppression. I do think the way that it is phrased perhaps limits us. I'm just talking like grammatically. I think what it's saying is that the only way that we're courageous is by uncovering, recognizing, and dismantling systems of oppression.
Mhm.
And I think we want to enlarge that a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know when we were discussing this, that one of the things we were looking at is that everybody faces something. You know, we want to embody and embrace the uniqueness of everyone. No student forgotten. We have, different races, different creeds. We have different backgrounds, belief systems. We have, we want to fight for everyone. And so I get that can kind of seem like we're limiting it to only recognizing those systems. And what we're really trying to say is that we have to be courageous and look out for everyone. And so I wouldn't mind adding something that makes that more clear, that this isn't just about fighting for one or the other. It's for everyone to feel included and to feel like they have a voice, and that we will fight for them.
I
Yeah,
wonder
I agree
too.
with you there.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I agree with you, Brandy, and everyone else. And as I'm just sitting here looking at this, and we're trying to look at the broader picture or into the future, and Brandy kind of touched on it, how can we really make students or even teachers feel what we're trying to say on all these words? Because if we look at each one and we start thinking about students, do they feel courageous? Does this fit them, or belong? Do they feel like they belong? And even though we have these focus group and some students are speaking up, that's just not, they're not speaking on the entire student population. And we know as things move forward, everyone have to update a mission, value statement. That's just known. But what can we do now where we don't have to think too much of changing it, but if a student reads it, maybe if they're LGBTQ, would this fit with them? And I know we can't satisfy everyone, but how do we come to that conclusion? Say, hey, I read this, I'm okay with it, community, but our main focus is the student. And we know we have to involve the community because they're a big part of it, but who's going through the school? Who's graduating? Who feel like they belong, have the courage, How are they going to feel once they complete a high school? How do they feel about their high school? You know,
I wonder too, if there's a way that we can weave in as a forward-thinking extension of dismantling or deconstructing. Like, what is it that we are also constructing at the same time that we are dismantling oppressive systems? Because I think for me, courage is about being bold in the face of adversity, but also the way that you develop tools to overcome it is by building something new, or at least building the resilience to face it. I'm not quite finding the best words, but when I'm thinking about dismantling, I'm like, okay, what is it that we build in its place? And I know that we as a school community are not going to be able to rebuild a society that has the inclusiveness and equity that we needed to have, but how do we approach that concept?
I think what we can do, Chris and I were chatting back and forth. We're collecting notes. If you would like, we can revise based on the feedback, the definition for courage based on the conversation and the feedback from the board, and bring that one back, in addition to some of the other changes that were noted, if the board would like.
I just want to say I'm really pleased with the work that's been done on these definitions. This was really great to walk through it and to listen to the feedback, but also just to see the work that you all have done. I'm really inspired by what you've created.
Proud of what we have here. I am excited about some of the changes that were suggested as well. And I think that at the end of the day, we're going to have something that's very unique to our district and very reflective of who we are. And that makes me very proud.
Okay. So are there any other final thoughts on this? We will come back with we'll share a revised version with you, but anything else you want to say before we move on to vision? Okay, I will move us on. Okay, so next on vision, just a reminder, vision describes what the organization hopes to achieve or be in the future. This was the previous vision. The vision of the Maplewood Richmond Heights School District is to inspire and prepare students as leaders, scholars, students, and citizens for a diverse and changing world. This was the feedback we got from the steering committee last time. They liked a lot of the pieces: inspire and prepare, thrive in life. They like leaders, scholars, and stewards. Preparation, stewardship, and citizenship are both really important. Yeah, everyone's really likes the words leader, scholars, stewards, and citizens. And they like the phrase for a diverse and changing world. Their ideas for strengthening were maybe consider using empower instead of prepare, define what leadership means, connect it to the vision, or connect the core values to the vision, think broader than just students. And there was some question about the difference between steward and citizens, and a couple other wordsmithing comments here. So we revised this to say, inspiring and preparing students to be leaders, scholars, stewards, and citizens who will thrive in a diverse and changing world, with the tagline being leaders, scholars, stewards, and citizens. And here's the feedback we got from the focus groups. The students really liked it. They really liked that it said that still has leaders, scholars, stewards, and citizens in it. They said they know what those words mean. They talk about them in class, and those are really important to keep. So they were really happy. They didn't have any other feedback to change it because they all said they liked it. Staff and parents really liked it too. Multiple groups who said it was really good, and they really like that we're keeping leaders, scholars, stewards, and citizens. They like the word thrive. And I did not actually get any suggestions for improvement from any of the groups other than like, we're really happy with this. So I don't know if you want to think about any revisions or you know, let's talk about kind of this revised version. Does this feel good and right to you? We'll just open it for discussion.
I like how you mentioned the students can really relate to it, and these are words that they're already hearing. So they're believing themselves that's what they're going to be. So I really like that feedback from the students.
I think it always helps to keep it simple. And the fact that these are terms that our school community is already well familiar with. I know we've struggled with whether or not these cornerstones are ones that should endure, knowing that the feedback from our students and families was that they continue to identify with these words. Kind of, I think, helps make the case for keeping this. I do like if we can continue to use words like leaders instead of leadership, like not the status, but the person embodying it. I don't know that these come up in other places in the language that we're developing, but I think that's a good way to approach it, is we're not a status, we actually are the thing.
Well stated, Amber. I think the people have spoken on this one, so can't really argue with their feedback on this.
I agree.
Okay, any other final thoughts on vision? All right, then I will move us on to mission. So mission describes who the organization is, what it does, and who it serves. And if you recall, we had people describe the different pieces here, who we are, who we serve, what we do. And this was the draft that you all came up with from before. MRH is a small, inclusive school district that is invested in the creation of safe and welcoming spaces where students, staff, families, and community members feel seen, heard, and valued for their unique backgrounds, culture, talents, and beliefs. We nurture, educate, support, and challenge all students to reach their full potential. The feedback we had last time from the steering committee was that they liked the part about being valued for unique backgrounds, culture, talents, and beliefs. Small inclusive school district. They liked that students, staff, families, and community members were included. They like the terms nurture, educate, support, and challenge. And they like that it includes what makes our district unique. Their ideas for strengthening said we might consider seen and heard being changed to appreciated and valued. Might want to take out invested in the creation of space of safe and inclusive spaces. They said we might want to add we compassionately nurture. Add something about helping students find their place in the world, feeling productive and happy. And then just the question of, are we move away from the metaphor system about studio, museum, expedition, etc. A couple other ideas. Some said maybe think about best lives over full potential. How can we highlight the eclectic nature of our district? And are we working on safe and welcoming, or we are safe and welcoming? So this is what we revised it to, and we took it to the focus groups. MRH is a small, inclusive school district where students, staff, families, and community members feel seen, heard, and valued for their unique backgrounds, culture, talents, and beliefs. We nurture, educate, support, and empower students to create a better society. with the tagline nurture, educate, support, empower. So here's the feedback that we got today and yesterday. The students said we should take out the word small, and they said the rest of it is really solid. Also heard from the staff and the parents, pretty much everyone said take out the word small. There were a few people that said, but that is what makes the district unique. But some people felt the term was limiting and might diminish the great work happening here. Someone said maybe we replace it with close knit, or maybe just eliminate it altogether. Somebody said we should take out the word feel and replace it with are. So not that they feel safe and valued and respected, it's that they are valued and respected. They really like creating a better society. Someone said maybe we should take out the word talents. They said it feels really inclusive. They like the tagline. They said we want them to create a better society, but we also want them to be their best selves. Someone said maybe change community to change, my community might be better than society. And someone said we might take out the word unique and change it to diverse. So that was all the feedback we got. Overall, people really liked it. These are just some wordsmithing ideas. So want to just get your feedback on what changes we might make to this based on the feedback.
I totally agree about removing the word small. It really stands out to me in this version. And small compared to what? Like, we're definitely bigger than a lot of rural school districts in our state. That's only small relative to our urban area, but I don't know that it really is needed. And I also agree with changing feel to are.
I'm like on the fence about small, because when parents talk about, even when I talk to people, I was like, I love our district because it's small and the students can get what they need, the assistance, the resources. So when I say small, I mean by the population and what this district can do for our students and family. Not like kind of compared to other schools, and I hear other parents say that. So I'm like on the fence about it, because that's what described Maplewood. It has always described Maplewood. It's a small school district. And that's why a lot of people want their kids in the district, because it's small. They can get the attention they need. And I agree, take feel out.
Maybe what we're trying to get at is that it's personalized because it's
Right.
small. I don't know that personalized is the right word, but
Well, and I wonder if that's why they said take out small, because doesn't inclusive kind of
Include, yeah.
it includes all of that personalized, close knit. I was okay with taking out small. I definitely, I hadn't thought about that, and that makes a lot of sense. I have to say, the one comment about better society and something about the students sort of resonated with me. I really like this mission, but educate, support, and empower students to create a better society. But that's about what the students are going to do. What about who they are? Aren't they a part that we want to create a better society, but we also want to help them with their best selves? I think best selves is not going to age well. But we're back to, could we add something about that before better society? I really love how these have grown and changed. And when I hear you say them, I'm like, wow, we live here?
I'm going to jump in while there's a opportunity for people to think and reflect on some of these edits and changes. That one thing that jumped out to Dr. Irwin here on the call, who picked it up, I thought was great, was if we just rearrange that tagline a little bit, start with support, then move to empower or educate, and end with nurture, we get an acronym of SEEN. And if I can do anything, I hope that our kids and our staff are seen.
I love that.
Me too.
I don't, I struggle. I love that, Chris and Abby. Thank you. So, I struggle with the word empower. In this context, I think it works and it's appropriate, but in many contexts, it doesn't work and it is not embraced. So I just worry about the aging of that word and just, I won't be around. So, just that's a word that we want to pay attention to. It's a word in my profession that we no longer use. So.
Talking about, like Rachel said previously, about just the longevity of these things. You want something that's going to stand the test of time, and that word can be, depending on the context or what's going on at the time, it can be a dangerous word. Maybe if we express what it's really saying versus just that word.
So just off the top of my head, I love the scene I mean, seriously, that's something to remember. So what would the word, then it made me sort of start thinking thesaurously about empower and moving that, but keeping with the E, which, and are we talking about elevating? Are we talking about not enlightening? But is there something that we can do where we keep that tagline with seen, which feels sort of fun and organic, but change that word so it ages with us?
We could use equip, which sounds a little like camping. But I think when we say we empower students to create a better world, we're giving them the tools that they need to do that. And trust is also an E word that may work there, although that's like we're giving it to them, not that they're working to gain it themselves.
I just want to reiterate, if we feel it works in this scenario and truly encapsulates what we're trying to say, then we shouldn't change it. But let's just be mindful of how it's used. And perhaps, that this is one of those trigger words that we just want to make sure that it ages well and that could change on a dime. So if it's what we need to use now, that's what we use now, but we just need attention on it. Brandy made a really good point. So.
I do think too, we want to think a little bit more about this idea of best selves versus better society. I don't know. I can't think right now about a better phrase for that, be their best selves. But I like the intention behind it, that we give them an opportunity not only to change the world, but to, we say it elsewhere, like realize their full potential, be their best selves. But I'm struggling with a better way to say that.
I looked up oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to note that inadvertently, we did focus on students with that last sentence, and we were pretty intentional in the start of this mission that we were really going to involve all people. So we might consider just dropping out students from that last line and see where we end up. Sorry, Brandy.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just saying, I looked up empower, and one of the synonyms was strengthen. I don't know that fits well in that sentence, but I think that we could potentially spend a little more time and words as well. To Maria's point, if it works, it works. But I think there may be other words that work just as well too.
So Aurora, if we can make some adjustments to bring this one back as well.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, well, we have lots of ideas from you all about some additional tweaks to make, so we appreciate your feedback. Any final comments on the mission? All right, well, that is all we have for tonight. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to sharing a revised version again very soon.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else they want to say before moving to the next item? Okay, CBTF recommendation. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Hey, can you hear me? Awesome. Let me try to get this moving here. So good evening, board members. I'm here to present the CBTF recommendations for salary for the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year. So the CBTF is the Compensation and Benefits Task Force. And it is, let's see if I can move this. It meets regularly throughout the school year with teachers, administratives, and the Board of Education representatives to seek, to study, deliberate, and to make recommendations regarding issues related to employee compensation. So this year, some of the salary recommendations that we made: why increase salaries? First, to demonstrate employee appreciation. We certainly know, based upon some of our survey data, that employees looking at our salaries, these are some of the things that we do definitely need to be mindful of and to make adjustments. And 78% of our budget is really spent on staff salaries. But we want to make sure that we're constantly monitoring our salaries and making sure that in terms of the market value and looking at other districts that we're staying competitive in the region. We also want to increase the financial stability, which we know that that is related to our employee well-being. It improves job satisfaction, allows for competitiveness. And so whether we're thinking about hiring individuals and bringing new people into our system or retaining the staff members that we do have, it allows us to be more competitive, and then it aids in that retention. And so we know that in terms of retention, that is really our best recruitment effort, is to actually maintain the individuals that we have in our system and to ensure that we're keeping that talent here in Maplewood Richmond Heights School District. So who's impacted? The teachers impacted by the channel. There are 15 teachers who are actually on a bachelor's salary schedule. There are 76 teachers who are on a master's salary schedule. Master's plus 30, we have 23 staff members. National board certified staff are 17, and then we have 7 teachers who are on a doctoral channel. So a total of 138 teachers roughly, and this is where they break down in the categories they fall into. So what is the budget impact? Thank you to Chris Holzer for pulling this data for me. In terms of looking at how it does impact our operating budget, we want to make sure that although we are aggressive in terms of putting forth a salary recommendation, that we also are being fiscally responsible, and we're thinking about how this will impact MRH financial outlook in the future down the road. So the teacher salaries for year 1 will be $9.47 million. The total additional salaries to our budget would be just over $600,000. And then the fund balance is going to be at 30.7%. And then for year 2, it's $9.96 million. You'll see the additional salaries are $493,850. And then that leads us to a projected balance of about 16% for year 2. And then our priorities, thinking about the continued priorities in our next steps. When we think about the recommendations, in addition to increasing the salary schedule and looking at the salaries for our teachers, we also are looking at recommendations for support staff compensation. We're revising those job descriptions, which is something that I shared last time we met. job reclassification and possibly job survey analysis. And so looking at what our employees are doing in those roles to make sure that they are actually doing the jobs that their job description says that they are doing. And if they actually have more roles and responsibilities, that we are looking at possibly making some changes or shifts down the road. Also researching disparities within categories. And so whether we're talking about certified staff or administrators, really looking at those specific categories as a whole, but actually drilling down to specific positions to see if there are additional gaps or disparities within certain categories within that area. We're looking at our leave options, tuition, reimbursement, and benefits. And so again, our total compensation package for staff members. Work calendars is something that we're also focused on as well. Training and development, our HR policy and procedure development. And so making sure we have some systems in place that are codified, that they're transparent, and that they are equally and equitably applied throughout the standard. And then our year 2 goals are salary schedules for support staff. Our goal is to create a salary schedule for that group as well. And then the recommendation for CBTF, for the following changes for the salary schedule for the 23-24 and the 24-25 school year. In year 1, for the 23-24 school year, we want to increase the bachelor's channel base by 5% with $1,000, and that's increase per step. So each step, there's a $1,000 increase, and the base will be a 5% increase. In terms of the master's versus the doctoral channel, the base will be increased by 7% with the step increments of 2.75. And we are recommending that we remove step 25 from the master's through the doctoral channels. For year 2, the 2024-25 school year, we're recommending that we increase the bachelor's channel base by 3%. And again, within the $1,000 base increase per step, and then increase the master's plus the doctoral channel base by 3% with step increments of 2.75. What questions might I be able to answer for you? That is the end of this presentation.
It's really great to see a recommendation come forward that's informed by deep conversation and work with our employees. I'm really pleased with how the process has gone on CBTF and glad that we can be responsive to what the teachers are asking for. I wonder if you could just give us a little contextual information about who we're competing against in our region and the kinds of raises that they are offering at our neighboring school districts over the next year or two.
So in looking at the salary recommendations, we started to really look and track where teachers are actually going to, which districts when they leave our districts, as a part of the exit interview, and just following up with teachers in terms of where they're transitioning to. Outside of retirements, if they are resigning and moving to our neighboring districts, we wanted to make sure that we looked at those salary schedules. We were noticing that there's probably about a $10,000 difference that teachers could leave MRH and go to a neighboring district and make more. And so we wanted to make sure that we were being aggressive in terms of looking at those comparable school districts. We know that there are other districts that will remain in the top 1 to 3% in St. Louis, and that's not something we certainly are trying to compete with. But we know our goal has been to be in the average, and that hasn't worked for us in terms of our scale has been sliding gradually in terms of being in that average of St. Louis County school districts. And so our goal now is just to really focus on maintaining our status of moving up in the ranks and making sure that we are again, being very competitive with other school districts. Dr. Jameson, I think you had something to add.
Yeah, interesting question. So when we think about where our teachers are going to, it's Kirkwood, Ladue, Clayton, and in thinking about the conversations that we've had, that I've had with my colleagues, as we continue to have small incremental increases for our teachers, our neighboring districts are given increases anywhere from 7 to 13%. across 1 to 3 years. And so if we continue on the trajectory that we currently are, we will continue to remain at the bottom of the salary schedule for all of the channels that we have. And Chris did do an analysis to show us where we would be if we continue with the current trajectory of what we have versus if we take a more aggressive approach. But the piece for us is around retention. I will say that for the CBTF conversations that we've had, as Dr. Ambers Phillips shared, there has been more level of engagement. And I will say ownership from those individuals who are on the committee, because they went back to their buildings and engaged their teachers and came back with feedback for us. So it was a very beneficial process. But if we want to continue to not only retain the teachers that we have, but also have the ability to recruit, we will have to make some adjustments in regards to how we do that.
So I swore I wouldn't do this. I didn't want to be like former board members that said one last thing before they left. But first I want to go on record. I fully support this proposal. We have to do this. I support our staff and my record stands on that. However, this is a moment in time for this school district to start seriously thinking about what this proposal and probably approval will have the impact on this budget. It eats up the fund balance and literally cuts it in half within 1 year. We know what that means. We can't just assume that the community will say, well, you need the money, we're going to give it to you, because we have a track record where that doesn't always work. So here's my word of advice. Start now. Chris Holzer, you have done every dance with me around projections known to mankind. You have a reassessment year included in your projections. Run it 12 different ways. You need to have plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. And I don't like putting negativity out there, but when you run the risk of potentially not passing a tax levy, we know what has to happen. So that work has to be done before you even ask the voters for anything about this. And I'm not saying you're going to do that this year. And anybody that's watching, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's coming. And this district has to put the work in now to be able to ensure to get that. But we don't have a choice right now. In this moment, we have to do this to retain our teachers. But you will not be able to continue to retain them, because my assumption is the other districts are going to continue to compound their increases, which is going to put even more strain on this budget. And I think I can be equally supportive and equally concerned at the same time.
Thanks, Maria. It is, and I'm happy to hear that there's strong support for this. I think you're exactly right. The year that we were struggling with a similar situation when it came to the fund balance, we did create two budgets. We created a scenario A and a scenario B in the event that it didn't pass. And even then, we still had to make some significant changes to survive until we were able to run that levy increase. So it is incumbent upon us to look at every possible angle and what it would mean for the district financially if it were not to pass. And we're happy to do that work. It's not the fun work, but it's definitely the necessary work, and we're happy to put in the time to do it.
I absolutely agree with Maria that we do have the responsibility to the community to do that extra work and really figure out the best timing for us to propose how we're going to remain financially stable, while also supporting the many, many needs that we have, not just around salaries, but also maintenance of all of our capital facilities. I think we do hear a lot from our community that they feel their property taxes are already quite high, and where does all that money go? I think there's maybe a lack of understanding about how that property tax then equates to what comes through to the school district and how we're able to use those funds. So I think we're in a position now to really begin a an educational campaign to really set the stage for how we might continue to remain viable and excellent as a district.
So I sit on this committee, so I've been keeping my mouth shut since I've been sitting on it. I do support this, but that was my first question on, I'm not used to seeing our fund balance go so low so quick. But we are really low on our salary schedule, and we have some really great teachers, and we want to keep them. So I definitely want to support this, and I want to be a part of the solution moving forward. And hopefully we can put our heads together about being fiscally responsible, but also supporting all the people who are doing such great work in our district.
Yep, I totally agree. We do have to compensate our teachers. And like Dr. Amber Phillips said, they're going to schools that's paying $10,000 more or higher. But my concern is, you know, everybody want to go where the money's at. We have families to take care of. So like Maria said, what's the plan B, C, and D, but we got to take care of the teachers.
I would also add that there's a cost for continuing to hire people as well. So if you're in that perpetual cycle of hiring and onboarding individuals and investing in them, not only does it not create a stable working environment, but there are a lot of resources that you're expending over and over again as well. So there's a cost that is associated with either. We just get to retain staff members, grow that institutional knowledge, the people that we are investing in, we get to benefit from that. And so I do understand that there are some challenges that this proposal does bring, but we have phenomenal teachers in this district, and I think it is in our best interest to try to retain them as much as we possibly can. Are there additional questions you'd like to pose to Mr. Hoser, myself, or Dr. Jameson?
Thank you guys for all your hard work. Our first action item.
Move to approve the CBTF salary recommendation for 2023-2024 school year and year 2, 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, please?
I move to enter executive session in accordance with section 610.021, subsection 3, 9, and 13, and section 610.022 of the revised status of Missouri on March 2nd, 2023, for the following specific reasons: personal matters.
Second.
Second.
Can I get a roll call?
Ms. Goldsman,
Yes.
Ms. Withicom,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Langston,
Yes.
Ms. Herndon Miller.
Yes. Okay, see you guys in a few minutes.
See you.